So hello everyone, welcome to today's launch webinar. My name is Florence, and for those that don't know me yet, I'm from Ellie.Connect. We are a Belgian company who have already for 2 years started with the Ellie.Connect network, really from the vision to help the textile and fashion industry to move forward in terms of sustainability, digitalization, and collaboration. And from within the network, what we try to do or what we aim at is to inform, connect, and inspire our members. So you can really learn from each other, you can find new partners, and what matters most is you can focus on making steps forward, making progress. We're always looking at ways on how to help our members because sustainability and the shift towards circularity comes with a lot of challenges and a lot of unexpected things that need to be solved. So we're always looking at how can we best support our members. And from that, we started a collaboration a few months ago with Fleur Deknudt from Awesom, who has over 30 years of experience in sustainable sourcing. So together we had a look at how can we create something to really help address several of the needs of the members that we noticed over the past periods. And that led to the webinar today, where we are launching our supplier and product fact sheets, really as a tool, a very practical tool to help our members prepare for more transparency, more traceability in the supply chains. We're going to dive into the tools later, but first of all, I'm going to give the floor to Fleur, who will give some backgrounds on the reasons why we developed this and what the importance of it will be in the upcoming weeks, months, times to come.
So, hi all, I'm Fleur from Awesom. Happy to be here. I'm buying textiles for 30 years and it's home textiles, and I combine this with international textile sourcing. My target is to organize the projects for my customers in the most sustainable way. So I really want to include circularity from development of the product until the end of life cycle. And I want to do this contributing to due diligence and European standards. So my job is textiles, but of course, these slides can help also for other industries. So let's have a look why these templates, please. The reasons are really because it matters. It matters to create awareness, and each company and individual can make a difference today. Europe will oblige us to report. There is already a legislation about that, which we will cover later. And some country laws separately are also running already. So your partners will also ask you for transparent product and production data. And as the data are dynamic, we can already start today. We should not wait till all the definitions are ready. We can be prepared for what is coming already now. So we will cover a few slides. I will go over quite quick over it, but any question, of course, you can ask it later. So let's go rule per rule, regulation per regulation. But in any case, I will try to make the link for each regulation why the product and the supply sheets can have important data for you to cover. So we offer your own data tools. You can use them yourselves. These are the suppliers and the product fact sheets. You can also ask or help to connect later if you want that. So first, all is about European Green Deals. The target is to keep the global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. It comes into Fit for 55 to decrease the net greenhouse gas emissions with minimum 55% by 2030. To achieve net zero neutrality, climate neutrality by 2050. We all know about the warming up and the climate challenges. So I think it's not new information for anybody of us, and therefore we need the transparency in the materials production and this over the total supply chain. So what will happen is really a shift to a circular economy. That really means to maintain the quality of the products as long as possible in the value chain, including the end-of-life waste management. And this will make a stop or in any case, a decrease of the linear economy that came to its limits. Because if we go from the take, make, waste, and then dump it, our resources will be limited. And in circularity, there are no limits to those resources as we recreate our value change. So the European Commission has set up a textiles strategy. All textile goods sold in the European Union should be long-lasting. So we really, the aim is really to extend the life cycle by repairing, reusing, giving for rent, second-hand. And then if no options to extend the life cycle are there anymore, recycling comes as a last option before we have to give the product to end of life or waste. And of course, all manufacturing should happen with ESG consideration. This means respecting the environment, the social right, and governance. A good tool to do that will be and also a rule from Europe, the digital product passports. And the intention is really to track the products over the complete value chain from the R&D to the end-of-life waste. And that's where our product sheets can be very helpful to prepare all the info you have already available together with your technical sheets. So about working conditions in the supply chain, product environment footprints, bill of materials, washing and care instructions, a commercial guarantee of durability, repairability. There are also guarantee laws coming about the right to repair, of to have your products repaired. So again, it's not only for textiles, it is for a lot of consumer products. Then we need to indicate the presence of hazardous chemical components, substances of very high concern used in production. The question is also to indicate the use of recycled content and the durability and expected lifetime of a product for which quality definitions will come for Europe, from Europe, for instance, how many times a product can be washed. And then also the recyclability option together with the disassembly options to make products modular so that they can be disassembled later. And then very important, they also want to tackle the possible release of microplastics if there is more than 50% of synthetic material in the product. So it will go about the identification of each product. So who made my product, where and how was it made, and what materials are used. Final definitions are under working, but the textile label regulation will be consistent with that. And there is also the extended product responsibility rule where the polluter will pay for the waste. So we have to recreate new value from the waste before it is really end of life. And then how will the digital passport function? Probably by a QR code. So gathering the information from now, the QR codes will be unique and dynamic to follow the product till end of life. So one of the laws already running is the anti-waste law in France. So this law is really intended to inform the customers about the environmental qualities of the product. If you look at the right, the Triman logo is there. So each product which comes on the French market already has to hold this label on the product and on the packing for all household and products, consumer products and cosmetics. The product also has to mention the recycled content and the options for recyclability. The product or a link to the website, needs to give for each product the origin, so the traceability geographically in ways for where the dyeing and printing have been made, where knitting, weaving have been made, where cutting and confection have been made. So the made in rules have a different connotation here. And then also the products need to bear information about the microplastics, as already mentioned, the chemical substances as per REACH regulation, and the packaging also, if it is recyclable, reusable, or even refillable. So there also are eco-design requirements. There is a regulation for that, eco-design for sustainable product regulations. So the intention is to design products for circularity. We mentioned the digital passports already, and all the rules are there to make the products more environmentally friendly, starting with materials, over assembling, packing, maximum life cycle, as we explained, and what happens end of use. Of course, the focus is on waste prevention. First, assuring that as less as possible waste should be there, and a direct ban on unsold consumer goods. Euratex, European Apparel and Textile Confederation, is monitoring this, and it will come together with life cycle assessments, a calculation tool to make impact of product life on the carbon footprint, water, energy. Then also there are green claims directive, because the consumer has the right to know about which sustainable choices he should make without greenwashing. So we need to prove what we claim, and we need valid certificates. Again, the questionnaires will help you for that, because greenwashing, mostly unwilling, is the exaggeration of environmental claims. We need to prove what we say with legal certainty, obligation that the claims can be verified and certified, and all claims need to be specific, not generic. Another law which is important, is already running, is the German supply chain law, or product supplier fact sheets, with the direct suppliers and the tier suppliers will support these questions. It goes about corporate due diligence in the supply chain, preventing and reducing the human rights risks, as you see them all listed there, and then highlighting also the forms of environmental pollution. And then finally, there are European sustainability reporting standards with information how and what should be reported. And these are supported by the Corporate Sustainable Reporting Directive, CSRDs, with the 12 ESG standards. It goes about financial and non-financial reporting, integrating due diligence and risk assessments on the environmental and human rights. So there is the need and the requirement for annual sustainability reporting. And that is supported by the ESRS reporting standards. There are 5 environmental standards, which you can see there, about climate change, pollution, water resources, biodiversity, and material resources. As already said earlier, there are 4 social standards about on workforce and the rights of the workers in the value chain, affect communities, and also the customers are involved. And there is 1 governance standard. And from these standards, we can go to the sheets where a lot of these questions will occur to support us. I give the word to Florence now.
Yes, thank you, Fleur. So I think what Fleur just gave the context about, or what the backgrounds, is quite clear. The direction we all have to go is traceability, transparency. And what we notice is that it comes with a lot of data. And many companies luckily have already started collecting the data, but it's still a bit everywhere. And before we start working as a company, we start working with really software or specific digital passport tools. There is a way to do the homework, or we need an easy way to do the homework before we can start choosing one platform or one software to work with. And that's exactly what we have created. Two very easy templates for each and every company within the supply chain who wants to start doing the work and wants to start collecting the data about the supply chain in a very structured way. So we're going to dive into it. I'm going to share my screen and I'll show the first one. So the first one, both of the templates are made in Excel, exactly because we want to create something that is easy, that is low-key, and that everyone can use without having to do a big investment in any kind of software that integrates. The idea behind the templates as well, yeah. The idea behind the templates as well is that you don't only can use them in your organization, but that you can also share them with your suppliers across the value chain so that they can help you to collect the data. They can send it through to their value chain, and step by step, you get a more clear view of who is doing what and what kind of data should I check? Am I still missing? I'm not going to go row by row, but I will highlight a bit the most important parts of the file. Important to mention here as well is we have thoroughly tested it, validated it the past months as well, both in Europe as well as as outside Europe with international suppliers. It is still a sheet that can be customized according to your own internal working, your own best practices, or how you work in your organization, but it contains all of the information that you should know, or that is recommended to start collecting. What you see here, so we have first of all the supplier fact sheet. The first important thing to be filled in by the requesting company can be the brand, can be the weaver, can be any kind of company, but is of course the product category, because a value chain can be different depending on the product that we want to collect the data for. So it always starts with the product category. If you have several ones, which in most cases is the case, you can use different tabs or different sheets depending on the category, the collection you're trying to get the data for. And what you then have is your supplier overview. This is still a blank sheet, but the idea here is, or the setup here is that column by column, we start for every activity that you can have in your supply chain or in your value chain. We start collecting the data of who is that company. The first ones, your tier 1 suppliers, are the most easy ones, but that we also start collecting it for the different steps that come after your tier 1 suppliers. So you can see that the company name can be filled in, and then it is, as explained as well, there is one column per activity. So people who fill it in, they can say, okay, I am the brand, I'm involved in design, I'm involved in confection or in assembly. And it's one column per activity. It's of course possible that one company is involved in several activities, but it's all spread out over the columns, so we keep a clear view of who is doing what. And that's important because, as Fleur already mentioned, in France, we have to disclose supply chain up until the dyeing, the printing, whereas maybe in the future, we will need the information all the way up until fiber supplier. So here you can really, step by step, you can collect more and more data for all the different steps in your value chain. Then the first part that is asked or requested is really the general information. What is the company? Where are they located? Who is the main contact person? It is possible that this is already in your ERP or in your internal software, but this here as well is included to really collect the basic information, not only from your direct suppliers, but also from the suppliers that they work with. So it's more about who's the contact person, are they part of a group, can be important for your certification or not, what are the activities in the group, capacity in kilos, in pieces, a bit of financial data as well. Here what we say for the general information, this is recommended. As a company using the sheet, you can always choose what is now for us the crucial information that we want to ask and what do we feel is more optional, so they don't have to fill in everything because it can be a big step from the start. So this is more general information. You see that very often it is blank text. Sometimes we made it also smart. So if they are a parent company, then it's a yes, no. So we can make it as well a bit foolproof. And then if we look at linking back again to what we expect that will be requested in the future, the second part of the sheet is all about the production setup. Not only production setup in terms of infrastructure, but also in terms of workforce. So questions are asked about the total number, as well as the percentage of male, female. And for example, if they work with migrant workers or if there is a trade union present. These are all, like, for example, if we look at the Fashion Transparency Index, these are also questions that are asked there that we have as well included into the sheet here. Just like I said in the previous parts, here as well, as a company requesting the data, you can at any time say, for us, this is really a required point, or for us, at this moment, this is still optional. We ask about anything in terms of infrastructure. Of course, if it's a company that is weaving, they don't have to fill in if they have also spinning or warping or dyeing, for example. So only the relevant fields are requested to be filled in. The same for confection, shearing, embroidery. So this is really a part that goes into detail about the production setup. And then, of course, the most important part when talking about sustainability, talking about anything in terms of certification, we request, and this one we also included or indicated as being a required. This is all about the different aspects of sustainability. And as you can see, so it's these questions are asked for any supplier listed in the value chain. Most of the time now we have an insight in this information for the tier 1 suppliers, but if the sheet is shared with the other suppliers in the value chain, it allows you to get an insight as well in the situation of your tier 2 or of your raw material suppliers as well. So the questions here are, the first part are really about quality controls and procedures. The first part here is yes, no. So for example, you ask, do you have a quality management system in place? Yes, no. It is also possible that you then ask for some documentation, that you say, okay, if yes, please provide a copy of the procedures you have. We also ask about the final control, the inspections, the labels they have, the testing. Another one important is if they have heavy metal detection. And then we have both for quality and also for social. We included 2 parts, and this is quite an important part, about anything for audits and certificates. If we want to communicate about sustainability claims, just like mentioned in the anti-greenwashing, we have to know that we are allowed, we are enabled to talk about it. So here there's a possibility for every supplier that you have, to indicate the audits or the certificates that they have, but also important to add all the data in terms of validity. When, for example, here, if you add the date and the date is past the day of today, so it's in the past, it will be colored red. If it's within 1 month, it's orange. So the idea, and if it's still valid, then it's green. So the idea here is that you really have one sheet for your suppliers, for your product categories, where you can see at a glance from, okay, I have to check, for example, once a month, I have to check or I have to request an update on that audit, an update on that certificate, without having to do it all one by one, but that we can really see at once, okay, here I have some attention is needed. The same for caps, and you can see for the quality controls and the audits, also for the social ones, it's all with a drop down that can be expanded if needed. So you can really easily get an overview of all the certificates that you have linking to one specific product category. We do it both for, and we also have it for environmental audits and certifications. So here you will then have the full list of all the other types of certifications that you can have. And important here is that it's a first ID that you get, not only from your suppliers, but it's also possible that you will be requested to fill it in for your customers. But it's a starting point because certification, it's still quite a time intense and also budget intense matter. So it is possible that, for example, the suppliers will not fill in any certifications or any audits that they've done, but that doesn't mean that they are not confirmed or not valid. It can be that they just haven't done the procedure. So it's a starting point to also go into conversation with them to see, okay, what kind of other data can we collect? And we have different tools, especially Fleur as well, to then take another step based on the information you can collect here. So quite a big part on everything to collect the data in terms of certification and audits. And then we also have for sustainable management, there are also some questions about the procedures for waste, for refused goods, if there are any KPIs. So this is then really about the management of it. And then the last part for the supplier fact sheet is about the products. So this is more general. If there are some main product types, to get some insights, to learn a bit more about the value chain you're working with, possible MOQs or other brands that they produced. And then it ends as well with a signature of your supplier, where they also state that they are responsible or that they agree that they keep the information updated. Of course, that will not happen from the first moment that they start using the sheets, but it's really a work in progress, is the first starting point, and it's about building a relationship with your suppliers to start collecting the data, but then, of course, as a next step, to also keep them updated. So this is the supplier fact sheet. This is really on value chain level. So it's about the suppliers you work with, the certificates that they have as an organization. But just as Fleur explained as well, there are also some specific data that is required on product level. Especially if we look at the new laws in France, with the Triman, with the Loi GEC. So as a complementary template to the one that we have on supplier level, we also created one based on product level. So what we have here, so it's a bit the same setup, but it's about totally different data. Supplier fact sheet is on your supplier level. Here we really go into product description, product number, a very specific product collection. As a company filling it in or requesting it, you can still choose the scope of that collection. In one company, it can be, this is for our collection of curtains for interior, whereas if we look at fashion or workwear, it could get way more complex. So you can choose a bit the scope of it. And what we do here, it's very much linking then to what kind of data should I collect or should I provide on a product level. The first part, again, is quite general, and this can be optional because very often this is then data that is collected in the technical sheet. This template is not intended to replace a technical sheet because that's very specific for every company. This is really a first starting point to start collecting the data on product level that can be required afterwards for the passports or that can be asked by your customers. So I'm going to focus on the product data part, where the first point is the composition breakdown and traceability. So here, instead of suppliers, the first focus is, and this is also linked then to what is asked or requested in France. Here we really zoom in into what are now the raw materials that are used into this product. So we added a very extensive list of all kinds of fibers that can be used. So you can choose from the list, and then of course it's also important that you select the category of it. It can be natural, synthetic, recycled natural, recycled synthetic. The percentages asked, this is then to determine the total composition breakdown of the product itself. It's important not only for your certificates, but then also to communicate, or like, for example, for the microplastics, it's an important breakdown that you need. But here we immediately add as well the traceability part. So you can fill in who is now the supplier of the raw material, if you, of course, have the information available. And in a further step, or in the next step, what is the origin? And then we also ask about the certificates that you have on raw material level. Again, something that is very important to know when or if you are allowed to communicate about, for example, GRS on a product level or on a packaging level. So there's quite a lot of differences there. And here we also included all the different certificates that you can obtain or that you can request on raw material level. There's a check here then, so of course the numbers should add up to 100%. So this is about composition. So you really collect the insights not only on, okay, what is now the composition of the products, but also when looking at the different types of materials you can work with and the traceability part, that you have a full picture of how is the product built up and who has now provided what kind of materials for that product. Then we have the product safety part. So the questions here are also linking back to the Loi AGEC in France. It's the basic questions you should know on product level. Do you have laboratory testing? Do you have any kind of hazardous substances, the concentrations? And then if they are present, what substances can be found? Here as well, we made the sheet smart, so you have some structure in the replies as well. And then the next part is the traceability. This can be, if you have your supplier sheets filled in, the information to fill in here can come from the supplier sheets as well. Or you can add it, you can send it along to have to collect both data at once. We have the different value chain activities here. These are the basic ones. The red ones are the ones that are already requested in France. But here again, the sheets are made so you can totally personalize themselves. So you can say, no, we as a company, we also want to know who has done the spinning, for example, or who has done any kind of other activity. Then you can collect the data, again, company name, the country. If there are several companies involved, there are several columns. So if there are 3 companies that have done part of the weaving, you can also include them here. After traceability, we move on to packaging. So here we included different types of packaging that you can relate to a product. Then you can also include the material, the category of the material here. So it's the same as on fiber level, but then it's on packaging level, with also the questions if it's recyclable, reusable, and if you have any certificates on packaging level. An optional question with the Oecotext list, if it's the source list, if it's available, yes or no. And then this part is very specific. It can be left out as well, but this part is very specific for all companies that are making products that are meant for the French markets, or that have customers that will sell the products in the French markets, because there are already some requirements on what you need to communicate towards your consumer via digital product sheet. It can be either via a QR code, you can choose how you do it, but there's already quite a lot of content that is required that you should put on it. And it's very interesting to know what they ask, how you can communicate about it, because France is one of the first, but Europe will follow, or more companies, more countries in Europe will follow. So if you can already comply to France, the next step can then be to further build upon it. What do you already need to disclose here, and what is linked in the sheet here? It's about your recycled content of the product. If it's we put the check in it as well. So if the fibers, the recycled fibers, are more than 0%, yes or no, then you have to put it on it. The traceability, this is you have to disclose already the country of assembly of the fabric weaving, knitting, and the dyeing and printing. So if the sheet above, the columns above are correctly filled in, you should have the information here. The same for the mentioning of the contains microplastics, contains hazardous chemicals. So every time we have the latest information of the legislation that is included there. And then the same for the recyclability and reusability of the packaging, both for plastics and for the paper cardboards. And then we also included that in terms of prohibited terms that you should take into account that you cannot have any statements related to biodegradable or respectful for the environment. And then to conclude on the sheet here, so what should be put on the packaging? Again, this is specifically for France. So you have the 3-man logo always required, the 3-man logo for your textile product and your QR codes. And then we also included the fact that you should also mention some information on the SUN label. So this sheet, comparing to the supplier sheet, is really on a product level. It gives you, or it provides you, a very strong basis to start working on, to start collecting the data, but is also made that you can adapt and tailor it according to the way you work, to the way your customers work, or the information that they require, that they will ask. And for today, so at the moment, we have included the information linking back to the Loi AGEC specifically for the French markets. But depending on the updates that come from the law in Europe or in the other countries, we can make some updates to the sheets as well. So they can help you to be conform to any legislation within Europe. And the focus of both sheets are to really, first of all, provide you with a template that you can start working on. That helps you save time as well, but then also that can be a starting point to further build on. So that's a bit it. It's in very short a demo of the both sheets. Of course, you get the best idea on how they work or how they can be of value for you when you start testing them. Something that we've done as well the past few weeks. And before we go into the Q&A, so how are the sheets? They will become available as from tomorrow. And either you will be able to buy them directly from the website, or the premium members from Ellie.Connect will be able to download them for free via the knowledge base. So you will also get an email from that. And then for anyone who says, okay, this is quite interesting, but we need some support to start working with it, or I don't know where to start, or we really want to take the next step in terms of traceability, that's then specifically the expertise of Fleur. So she is also available to really support you in one-by-one projects, to help you with the entire concept of more sustainable sourcing. And she will also then, of course, be using the sheets, but then together with you. So I don't know, Fleur, if you still have anything to add?
Yeah, maybe quickly. As per the supplier sheets for all your tiers, the suppliers of your suppliers, some information will not be there, some certificates will not be there. But there is nothing to worry about, because there are other tools to make them committed, as having signed code of conduct or having extra questionnaires where we can see their engagement or additional checkpoints to show them the direction, and even to have them sign a direction where they should move on if they want to be in your supply chain. So it's a tool, but it's not obligatory in this way that, okay, we can help for other solutions. And then another thing is that today there is a lot of information. Some information already should be transparent as per Loi AGEC, as Florence said. But of course, today you can communicate yourself about what matters for you. So this information you can keep internal, or you can share as per your own disclosure will today. So it's just a tool for your own use and your own practice.